Hey everyone, welcome back to the studio. If you're new here, I am Tammy at Tams Creative Corner. And yes, we hit that 10,000 subscribers, so this Sunday I'll be announcing a giveaway for all of you guys. So be sure to check back Sunday so that you can enter that giveaway. I've got some really cool stuff for you. In the meantime, I have reluctantly uploaded this video of this little sea turtle because I just made a lot of mistakes along the way that I wasn't so proud of. So I've never claimed to be an expert at any of this. I'm just sharing with you my journey in the world of resin art. And if you want to leave a comment below to let me know what you think, then that would be amazing. But please be gentle because trust me, no one is harder on themselves than I am. I have done plenty of self-criticism for all of us. So if you want to see how I made this guy and follow me along on the journey, then let's get started. I've prepped this little wood turtle with a wood sealer, and now I'm just taping off the back with this blue tape. It's kind of like plasticky, so it works really well at keeping that resin off the back when you're pouring. It's not necessary to paint your board, especially if you've sealed it with wood sealer. I just like to do this because it gives me a design idea of how I might like my piece to flow with the resin. And if you're going to be using resin that's translucent in color, you'll see some color underneath instead of just the wood. I'm using Arteza paints to paint my base, and I'll be sure to list out the supplies I've used down in the description below, with links where they are available. Be sure to level your board so the resin doesn't all drip off to one side. And here are some of the supplies I'll be using in this first layer. Of course, I've got some pigments and glitter, my torch, some mixing cups, some sticks, my alcohol wipes for cleaning my hands and tools off, gloves, a respirator, and of course our resin. And today I'm using art resin. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. You mix part hardener, part resin, and mix it really well for 3 to 5 minutes before adding in your pigments. Once I get my beach poured, I go ahead and torch out any bubbles and I cover it up to cure. Now that my beach is cured, I'm moving on and I'm mixing in this beautiful glitter with just some clear resin, and that's going to be my base layer for the water. And what this will do is give it that beautiful under the sea sparkling look. And there's going to be a lot of layers of resin that go over the top of this, but you'll catch glimpses of sparkle and shine underneath the surface. Using my favorite ratio measuring cups, I'm mixing up another 2 ounces of art resin, and then I'm going to divide that into smaller cups and begin adding in some pigments. This pigment is so rich and strong, it takes very little, and I want to keep this translucent so we don't lose all that sparkle underneath. After I torch out those bubbles, I go ahead and use some of my Armor Art White epoxy pigment so that we can begin creating some waves on this layer. And now using my heat gun, I'm able to manipulate the white epoxy pigment in the resin and create those fabulous cells and that kind of foamy wave look that I love to get rolling up on the beach. Now that that layer has cured, I'm ready to move on. And now I'm going to make more of a gradient color over my water, starting from dark and going to light. I'm using an epoxy pigment for the dark and alcohol ink for the lighter part. And then I'm going to just use my fingers and blend it together, torch out the bubbles, and move on. A lot of the same steps are just applied over and over as I build up the layers on this piece. I make sure to add clear resin before I lay down the white in my beach. You've got to have the clear for the white to move in. And then I use my favorite heat gun because it has a variable temperature dial on the back, which is amazing when you're working with resin. And I just create some more cells, some more lacing, and some more waves washing up onto the shore. Using my heat gun, I just warm that tape up and it pulls off pretty easy so that I can begin working on my next section. And of course, knowing me, I had to go in with my glitter glues and add a little bit of more sparkle into the waves and into the sunset sky. And then I go over that with a clear coat of resin, just to preserve that sparkle before I move on. I have to use some aluminum tape to put around the edge of the sky part because I need to build up my resin to match the sea resin. That was one of the first problems I had just a lot of work ahead of me to get it to match the level and the depth of the ocean so that I could blend that line that you see there. Now that I've built up that layer to match the sea, I pull off that tape. You can heat it up the same way, and I trim off some of those harsh edges. Then I sand it down before I begin pouring my next layer. I probably should have just left well enough alone, but I really didn't like that harsh line and I wanted it to blend more into the sky, so I used some acrylic paints to give me a bit of a guideline. And then I started pouring some resin with some more pigments to try to blend that all together. So here you see me creating many layers to try to get the look I'm after, and it ends up being quite the stormy sea. I realize I'm moving through this pretty fast. This was a super long process and I just didn't want to give you a really lengthy video, but I do have other more detailed how-to videos on making these seascapes and I'll link one above if you're interested. So I've decided to add one final clear coat and call it a day. I've had enough of this turtle. So if you guys like what I'm doing, please hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. And I'd love to hear your comments below. But remember, please be kind. Us artists are always very hard on themselves. Have a great day, everyone, and happy creating.